Muffy and the Medicine Cat, Chapter 3, Mama Porky and Spike. She was sitting in the middle of a grassy field munching on some clover. Her children were a little way away, but close enough that she could still see them. "Stay where I can see you," she reminded them. "Yes, Mom," came the chorus from the 3 little porcupine pups. She continued munching quietly as the children tumbled around and chased each other in the long grass. They weren't too far away from the hollow tree where they lived, and it was peaceful here in the late afternoon sunlight with no one else around. Meanwhile, Muffy and Riff were playing hide-and-seek now, and Muffy was wedged in between the fence and the big oak tree in the back garden, trying to be as small and quiet as she possibly could so that her sister Riff wouldn't find her. Riff had circled past her several times, pretending she hadn't spotted her to prolong the game and muttering, "Oh, bother," in a loud voice as she passed by, intentionally looking in the wrong direction. Muffy tried to stifle her giggles, which of course Riff could hear, but pretended not to, and thus the afternoon passed pleasantly. After a while, Riff got bored and wandered over to Oliver for a chat, leaving Muffy in her hiding place. Oliver the Papillon was chasing lizards up and down the back of a garden chair. Zot, the lizard, was a good friend of Ollie's. They played a lot together, and of course Zot never got caught, even though Oliver could be heard saying, "Ha! Gotcha!" quite a bit, but it was never true. Up one side of the chair, Zot would scamper and skitter, and down the other, while Oliver made himself dizzy, going back and forth under the chair and trying to come up beside Zot. He could never quite predict where Zot would end up, and he was never quite fast enough, but it was an excellent game. Muffy wondered what had become of Riff, but she was a bit tired from the day's play, so she flopped over for a nap. And then she heard a tiny, high voice. "What's your name?" it said. She looked up and at first didn't see anything. Then the little voice piped up again. "Hey," it said, a bit irritated now. "What's your name, I said?" Muffy found the owner of the voice, a small creature with tufty, spiky hair sticking up. "You look funny," said Muffy, not meaning to be rude, but being of an extremely curious nature, and not ever having seen a creature that looked quite like that before, she was intrigued. She got up and went over to the fence to have a closer look. "I'm Spike, and I'm a porcupine," the creature said, coming as close as it dared to the fence. "I'm Muffy, and I'm a dog," Muffy answered, always aware of her good manners as she had been taught. "What's a dog?" Spike asked, not sure if he was to be afraid or not. "I don't know," Muffy answered, considering the question. She'd never been asked that before. I think it's kind of like a horse, only smaller, and it's like a cat, only friendlier. Nothing at all like a bird or a fish, of course, but maybe a little like a rabbit." She shrugged, giving up, as none of them really hit the spot. "What's a porcupine?" she asked, grateful to change the subject. "Well, it's not anything like a dog, I can tell you," laughed Spike. "But maybe it's a bit like a squirrel." They chatted away for quite a while through the fence that afternoon, completely unaware that Spike's mum and 2 brothers were frantically rushing around looking for him and calling his name. "I live in a hollowed-out tree," Spike was saying. He was quite relaxed now, not at all afraid of the dog, whatever that was. She was nice, friendly, and interesting. "I live in that house over there," Muffy said, pointing with her nose. "There are quite a lot of us. We're a family. We just got back from Florida." "What's a Florida?" Spike said. Muffy could see this was not a very experienced or worldly creature like she was. After all, she had had a lot of adventures in her short life, most of them consisting of chasing things and getting lost. But of course, she was always found in the end. So Muffy told him all about the Florida vacation that they had been on. She told him about the funny creatures that they had met, dolphins and manatees, and even a big pink-colored bird with a beak shaped like a spoon. It took her quite a while to explain all this to Spike, who was enjoying every minute of it and was laughing heartily at all of Muffy's jokes. Spike's family, of course, were not enjoying themselves at all. They were worried sick and desperately running this way and that, trying to find Spike. His mom was a very organized porcupine and was attempting to comb the grassy field in a grid pattern so they wouldn't have to keep retracing their steps, but it was quite hard to get the kids to stop causing confusion and running in all directions at once, hysterically calling to their brother in their high voices. It was Whisker who spotted them. He was the oldest and tallest, not by much, but enough that he had jumped up and just caught sight of Spike over the tall grass chatting to a monster through the fence. "Mom!" he shouted. "He's over there!" His mother turned and came lumbering towards him. Porcupines are not very fast, you know, but she did the best she could. I'm coming, she said exasperatedly. "Hurry! I think the monster's trying to eat him," said Whisker, hopping up and down from one foot to the other. The youngest brother, Quill, was on the other side of the meadow, and hearing the commotion was also doing his best to get poor Spike before the monster could eat him. Muffy and Spike were thoroughly enjoying themselves and completely unaware of the trouble they had caused. "So what was it like swimming in the ocean?" Spike was asking, after Muffy had told him about Myrtle Beach and about the fish that leapt and splashed and the big salty waves and all manner of things that might as well be on Mars to a small porcupine pup. Danger loomed from across the meadow, and Muffy chatted on about what it was like to swim and be on a boat. She told Spike all about the time she was chasing a bee, and the family didn't know that she was missing and almost left without her. Spike thought that was funny, but only because it had a happy ending. Otherwise he would not have laughed. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the grass near the fence. Spike's mom had finally made it, and she was extremely upset and afraid for her poor son. She had had a lot of time as she had lumbered across the field to ponder his fate, and by the time she got there she had convinced herself that the monster was as big as a horse, with teeth as sharp as a lion, and claws like the talons of an eagle. She wasted no time introducing herself, but launched at poor Muffy, who didn't see her coming, swinging her tail around and through the fence and giving Muffy a painful smack right on the nose. Whomp was the sound it made. Yikes! Came from Spike, and ouch came from Muffy.